Good evening, everyone. Today is November 11th. Take a look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Both sides continue to advance in the Kursk Oblast salient, but the front lines haven't changed much. The New York Times reported, approximately 50,000 Russian and post-ATS troops are preparing to launch a large-scale offensive in the Kursk region in the coming days. Soldiers born in the 1980s wear Russian uniforms. These men will most likely be fighting in different units. Take a look at the situation on the battlefield in Ukraine. Russian armed forces continue to launch offensives in Donetsk Oblast from multiple directions. The Russian Defense Ministry reported, Russian troops have entered Kulakhov. Street fighting is taking place in the city. Pushilin, the Russian appointed head of Donetsk, also said, the Russian armed forces are not only advancing towards Kulakhov, and it also cut off the supply lines of the Ukrainian armed forces. However, the Ukrainian General Staff has not confirmed this news. This afternoon, a Russian military blogger reported that, in order to slow down the Russian army's advance, Ukrainian armed forces blow up Reservoir Dam west of Kulakhov. Floods have begun to inundate nearby villages. The Russian armed forces have recently stepped up their offensive in Donetsk and Kursk. An analysis by the Institute of War Studies reported that, Russian armed forces captured and recaptured 1,517 square kilometers of land in Ukraine and the Kursk Oblast in September and October. But everyone may be like me. It is rare to hear that the Russian group occupied several cities. In the past 2 months, they have occupied mostly fields and villages in Ukraine. The acceleration of the advance was also accompanied by a sharp increase in the number of Russian casualties. British Defense Secretary John Seeley quoted data from the British Defense Intelligence Agency as saying, Russian armed forces casualties reached new high. They suffered 41,980 casualties in October. In addition, data from the Ukrainian General Staff show, Russian troops suffered 38,130 casualties in September. That is to say, the Russian army suffered more than 8,000 casualties in 2 months. In addition, Russia used missiles and drones to carry out night attacks on Nikolaev and Zaporizhzhia. Explosion kills 6 people. 20 people injured. The injured included 5 children. This afternoon, another Russian rocket hits a 5-story building in Kryvyi Rog. Explosion injured 7 people. Take a look at the news from Russia. The Washington Post reported, US President-elect Trump Zeus spoke on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin. It was the first call between the two since Trump won the election. Trump advises Mr. Putin not to escalate war in Ukraine, and reminded him of Washington's large military presence in Europe. The two discussed the possibility of peace on the continent. Trump also expressed interest in further talks, discuss an early resolution to the war in Ukraine. The KANU also wrote, Kyiv officials have been informed of the incident, but there was no objection. A spokesman for the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said this was a lie. Ukraine received no information about Trump-Putin call. Kremlin spokesman Peskov also said this afternoon, conversation between Mr. Trump and Mr. Trump reported by the Washington Post is disinformation. There are currently no